Good day. Today I'll discuss to you the poem entitled A Yellow Moon by Angela Manalang Gloria, one of our earlier Filipino poet who as well experimented on the English language in their work. Now, with the previous three poems that we were able to examine, I hope that from there we're able to check as to the development of the English language in the literary works of our own very own Filipino writers. Now, before I start with this particular discussion, I'll read to you the poem and piece by piece I will discuss it to you. Yellow Moon by Angela Manalang Gloria. I stand at my window and listen, only the plaintive murmur of a swarm of cicadas. I stand on the wet grass and ponder, and turn to the east, and behold you, great yellow moon. Why do you frighten me so, you captive of the coconut glade? I have seen you before, have flirted with you so many a night, when my heart, ever throbbing, never restless, had been for the moonlight to calm it. But you were a dainty whiteness that kissed my brow then, and a gentle pale flutter that touched my aching breast. You are a lonely yellow moon now. You are ghastly, spectral tonight, alone, behind your prison bars of coconut trees. That is why I do not dare you to take into my hand and press you against my cheeks to feel how cold you are. I am afraid of you, yellow moon. Okay, so examining this particular poem exhibits so much mood, and this particular mood felt is quite really very heavy with intense emotion. And so we start by examining it line by line so that we can really get the exact image created by this particular poem and how the persona in a number of ways addresses an inanimate object and the transition of how this inanimate object reveals things towards the persona. And we will discuss it through a persona's point of view. Again, we will not be using the poet as someone who, although the poet wrote this, however, sometimes a poet will write a story or a feeling of someone else. And so here, the point of view first that we see is that it starts really with I, the persona I, says and narrate on the first line, I stand at my window and listen. So this persona is standing at his or her window and listen. And on the second line, only the plaintive murmur of a swarm cicadas. And so we have here a use of the punctuation mark semicolon entails additional information or an additional discussion of the standing of the window and the listening. And so the persona here is actually listening to the plain murmur of the swarm cicadas. We know the sound of the cicadas during nighttime. I know you all know this, that this is now our signal of the nighttime in our place, and we have a lot of which. And then I stand in the wet grass and ponder. So from the listening of the persona from his or her window, this time it entails of going out, and it says there, I stand on the wet grass and ponder. And so the persona is standing on a wet grass. Perhaps this particular wet grass entails the mist within that grass, and was pondering something. And while this persona is pondering, on the fourth line, he or she says, and turn to the east in a certain direction, and behold you, great yellow moon. And so this is now sort of the start of the rising action. So when the persona turns to the east, and behold, he was able to see this you. And who is this you? So the persona is saying it's the great yellow moon. And then this time, the persona is now addressing to this particular moon, to an inanimate object, and says, why do you frighten me so? And so the persona asks, great yellow moon, Why do you scare me? Why do you frighten me? You're just simply a captive of the coconut glade. And so what does this mean? The persona would want to ask, why is the sight of the great yellow moon very frightening? And yet this yellow moon is just simply captive of this coconut glade. And so I want you to look at the picture that I attached. This is what would the persona want us to perceive? Captive of the yellow or the coconut glade. That means from afar, the persona can see this great yellow moon being captive, being like backdropped with the coconut glade. And so it's trying to put into a context that the moon is like just simply out there from afar, from the direction, being surrounded, being backdropped by coconut glade and among others. And yet, why does the persona feel being frightened by this particular sight of the moon, the yellow moon? And so we have here persona continues to say, I have seen you before, so this very side of you, I have seen this, you yellow moon. And I have flirted with you so many a nights. And the persona says you're putting an in a, an human action towards the moon, that the persona has flirted with the moon in many nights. And of course, in real, we do not necessarily say that the this human or the person have flirted directly to the moon. So perhaps when the saying of have flirted with you so many a nights, that would mean that in this particular time there was a happening that makes the persona very frightful of recalling a particular incident. And so we have now the answer in the second stanza. When my heart ever throbbing, never listless. This was the night I flirted with you, yellow moon. You are the witness. When my heart ever throbbing, when you say ever throbbing, full of emotion, perhaps really in love, and say never listless, that would mean never growing tired. There was a time that I flirted with you, moon. You were the witness of when my heart was in love, ever throbbing, full of emotion, and never tired. I have pinned for the moonlight to come, and with this, the persona yearn to the calmness of the emotion, not necessarily the moonlight to come, because the shining brightness of this particular moon, the yellow moon, entails as well the intense emotion that the persona was trying to control. But because of this power that the moonlight has, or the moon, it says here on the second stanza, but you were a dainty whiteness. You are with your delicious sight. Your delicious dainty in Tagalog is masarap. Dainty whiteness, that would mean the delicious sight of this moon, so wonderful. And so that kissed my brow then. And so how would we would ask, how would a moon kiss the brow of the persona? And so we have now presumed here a transition, that the persona is seen to talk not directly to the moon, but is addressing the moon in a way of in lieu of a person, in exchange with a person, that person has kissed his brow then. The kissing, the gentle kissing, the made a flutter and touch the aching of the heart. So that means it has like this simple gentle touch has fluttered the heart of the persona. And when one is heart is fluttered, it's disturbed. And that would entail when one heart is fluttered, it's in love. But that was way back before. But on the third line we have here, you are a lonely yellow moon now. You are ghastly. So there's now a transition that was before, but now you are a lonely moon now. You are ghastly. When you say ghastly, that pertains to something that's more likely frightful. You yellow moon. That's why it's being supported with the line that we have on the first stanza where it says, why do you frighten me so? The persona asks. And there's now a conclusion on the third stanza, on the second line, that you are ghastly, you are frightening, spectral tonight. You are frightful because you're like a ghost tonight. When you say spectral, it's like a ghost. alone, very dreadful, behind your prison bars of coconut tree, and because of this you're very frightful. That is why I do not dare to take you in my hand, because of the sight of your being a moon, being the person you are, being frightful. I do not dare to take you into my hand and press you against my cheeks to feel how cold you are. I am afraid of you, Yellow Moon. And so it says here to press you against my cheeks now, because we are able to establish here that the moon has transited into a person. And because of this frightful thing that the persona can recall, he doesn't dare to take the person's face into his cheeks to feel the cold notes of the person like a ghost. And that because of that, the persona is totally afraid of the person of the yellow moon. And so the yellow moon here serves like a witness of the happening before, how a certain person has grown cold like the moon, how it has become lonely like the persona, him or herself, perhaps falling the intensity of loving someone, and and on the later part being fall the feeling of being cold, being falling, or going out of the reason of falling out of love. And so we feel that intense of emotion, the persona here. And by saying I am afraid of you, yellow moon, the very sight of this moon itself gives so much recollection to the persona of the things that have happened, and how it had become, of the pain, of the memory. And every time this particular site is seen again, it brings back the memory of pain. And we all know that a person has not forgiven someone if you can recall a memory and it still pains you. There's no forgiveness in there yet. True forgiveness would mean forgetting the pain, but not forgetting the incident. So if we're able to recall this particular incident and yet you don't feel something in your heart, then that means that you have forgiven and have completely forgotten something. Because again, time will lessen the pain, but that would always be there. It will not really cure the pain unless you do forgive yourself and forgive the other person. And from the yellow moon itself, we're able to see the struggle of the persona, of the memories, and how it still brings pain through, of course, the yellow moon itself. From here, we can see an intense emotion. We are able as well to see the abundance of the uses of figures of speech. First, we have the apostrophe. The persona addresses the moon as if it's really a real person. Next, personification, as to how the persona or the poet put in anime human attributes to the moon itself. Then, with the use of the vocabulary, yes, we're able to see then if you compare it with Jose Garcia Villa, Angela Manalang's vocabulary is quite um, of higher level, because she uses the word ghastly, spectral, so very appropriate as to the description of the moon. And we're able to see here that our Filipino writer were really able to catch how should one work with a language as if it's their own. Again, there's ownership of the language, and we can see a wonderful thing here that in a short span of time our writers are able to adapt, and it does not mean that this is only solely the language of the colonizer, but this means that we appropriate the language as our own Filipino language, our own English. And appropriating a language is one of the dynamics of language. We take ownership of something that we're very proud of, that we can really speak well in English. I hope that you were able to see the development of the English language in the works of our literary writers, early Filipino writers, and with this as well appreciate how our writers are able to put their own reality using the language of the colonizer. I hope you were able to enjoy this particular poem and you do have a great day. Thank you.